Welcome back to my early age Arcocephaly series. So last turn we were here positioned in this swamp ready to break the walls of Rus. However, the Rus player recognized this is a mortal danger to his game, and he unleashed a diplomatic fury trying to convince me that we can be best friends forever, which this is not something I usually agree to. But in this case, Rus, who was played at the time by Choksny, he did sound very sincere, and actually having, let's say, honorable friends in these games is really useful for me because the biggest threat I'm always looking out for are coalitions against me. So having somebody who is committed and who keeps his word that he will be my friend for quite a while, this is something quite valuable to me. The other reason to actually skip attacking Rus was that the negotiations I had with Fomoria about a possible non-aggression pact were inconclusive, and Fomoria was trying to move forces to my border, which made me decide that this is unfortunately this will be my first war because I could not convince Fomoria to attack Midcon, who were obviously the biggest threat. Fomoria was not that concerned, and apparently they want to fight me instead. So, moving out from the swamp, I quickly repositioned the Wind Riders for defense against the possible Fomorian attacks. Here, I sent a patrol party to intercept any Nemedian raiders if needed because they're stealthy, and I want this palisade to be safely finished, which now has happened. And what I'm going to do against the Fomorian forces from the south is I'm going to send a few engineers here to help the palisade withstand the siege from these giant unmarked champions, while I attack other places in Fomoria itself. So that's one thing I can suggest. Always be on the lookout for stealthy attacks and other things which can mess with your palisade construction. And to the north, we managed to catch Fomoria with a charge from the sky. Notice that not all of them managed to get blessed. Basically, losing two Wind Riders here is not the best outcome for me, but I think there was some friendly fire by the light cavalry, which was unfortunately just too lucky for the shields and armor of the Wind Riders to survive. As for Fomoria, I also skied Fomoria itself, and we called the appearance on turn 13 as expected of the Fomorian Titan, the Duo of War, which means their incarnate was up, and this is not surprising for me because at the time this was a really popular incarnate for Fomoria. It's actually just recuperation, which is obviously no concern right now for me. Okay, so we destroyed this group here. We'll actually do let this group here to raid the forest, but this forest is actually a really poor province because it had a ghoul in the forest at the beginning of the game. So it's like 1600 pop or so, like really low income. And we are also preparing some other things which will be used to catch possible Nemedian raiders, like tramplers, for example. And also the skying itself, I want to check what exactly is, or at least seemingly so, the Fomorian army composition and army recruitment. And while we don't see them right now, I have seen the medians before, so they do use some of them. I also have discovered the fort construction here, and I will be checking in this area as well for fort construction. Also, in other news, we do get to border with Mavurni, which, far as I know, also will be at war with the 8th player Huizu, and we also see how annoying Riley is pressing on the Rus coastal area, and Rus is not happy about this. So let's see how the Fomoria war proceeds. Alright, here, we were here last time. On this turn I decided to spread out the forces of Wind Riders and actually raid multiple provinces, destroying the fort construction and just messing with Fomoria. So one of the major upsides Wind Riders have is that at the ratio I'm recruiting wards and riders, I can always split the forces into smaller raiding groups or unite them into one large force. And my enemies have really hard time figuring out what I'm going to do. For example, here this fort construction was even protected by some stuff like a PD dump. There's some kind of mage, the commander, and all this is killed without any losses. Let's just quickly check all the battles. This is the destroyed fort construction. This is the expected Nemedian warriors attack. It does materialize. Let's see where. Okay, there is this farmland here, which, by the way, because it's a mountainous farm, it wasn't particularly rich, and that's fine. We'll discover how to catch them. They reinforced this force here. It was previously just one unmarked champion. Now there are two. So this is probably more than 10 unmarks. There were 9, I think, last turn. This is probably close to 20. And this will be like probably their major attack right now against this palisade. Again, just throwing just a PD of 20 barbarians without an issue. This is the possible other fort construction place I suspected. I think it's this one here. Yeah. Again, dealing with some PD, never mind, it has a war elephant, doesn't matter for the Wind Riders. And this here, I think they were killing a diseased wizard or something. They asked for it, whatever. And I think I also offered them the swamp back, because I actually didn't need the swamp. In exchange for the heavy cavalry province, which is kinda rich once the heavy cavalries are killed off. Another raid. Some events which are not the best. And we get the shipwreckers, which will help us as well. So the shipwreckers priority target is to actually capture this lake and keep an eye from here on Mythcon and Servomatia, and from there we'll be using it for, let's say, catching Nemedian raiders or something. Okay, and now that we have raided Fomoria at various places, they still don't know if I'm going to attack Fomoria next turn and consolidate my riders or not. At the time, my estimate was that their Titan was not yet ready to fight, because I just had a feeling they haven't forged enough items, haven't researched enough buff spells for it, based on my general view of how prepared their player was for this war, let's say. Turn 15, notice that Mythcon prophetizes a Turkey. This is in order they have undead leadership, and this means that this prophet will be used to lead a whole group of Ozelotos at long range flying raids. This is something which I actually approve as a strategy for Midcon. And this turn, I think we decided to actually attack Fomoria. Unfortunately for the Fomoria player, but not surprising, he decided to protect Fomoria with whatever he could muster as forces of Sackers, but not send his Titan out, because again the Titan, I did not expect him to be ready yet, and this will not end good for him. And on the relatively low price tag of 7 Wind Riders, we destroyed much more of their sacreds, and we siege Fomoria, which, remember, is their only actual fort, so they lose all income except half of Fomoria's income, less even, because of the unrest created by the battle. What else happens here? As expected, the war shamblers have no issue whatsoever with the merman in that lake I mentioned. We rate a little bit more here, and they move on top of our palisade with 20 giant creatures. And this is something I love about early age Archocephaly. We have only 2 engineers inside, and you see how long it will take for them to break this fort. Basically, they will need 2 more turns, despite having 20 kinda giant units on it, and this is like just a human palisade. And when you deal with Wind Riders, having 3 turns in total to siege down a palisade is way too much. The mobility of Archocephaly is so high that just too much can happen in 3 turns. And the only thing which remains as a question for Fomoria is where their Numidian Raiders are, but we'll try to catch them next time. Just in case, you can see that basically I always have some stuff patrolling outside the capital and other places which I don't want to lose under any circumstances to a stealth raiding party. So yeah, I mean, this is not really at risk to be lost to 15 or so Numidian Raiders. And this turn we actually decided to keep just a scout on top of Fomoria and raid everywhere else. Again, these are really easy victories. The raiders appear. And unfortunately for Fomoria, they didn't even try to reclaim their capital. So basically now each turn 16th and of their territory is controlled by me. And considering the first orders for this war were issued for the resolving of turn 12, and this is the beginning of turn 16, it basically took just 3 turns to overrun an entire nation. And completely, basically at this point the war is won. They do have the Titan, they will manage to gear it with some stuff and send it out, and it may take a while to destroy Fomoria itself, although may probably not, because I'm quite prepared to do it very soon. But even if they somehow fail to do this, they have absolutely no way to actually achieve anything now. Their game is lost, their fort construction is lost, all their territories are over, their capital is siege, just over for them. Okay, one of these battles is reclaiming a province they raided with stealth forces. They raid another place which I didn't guess correctly. Still, this force is still alive to raid me. However, what we did here is we freed our palisade, and they really probably because desperation was already high for the Fomoria's player. They didn't really try to retreat or anything, and they got caught out here in a fairly obvious move. That again just sorted without much losses for me. Alright, we see their Titan. Not really impressive. Again, the time, because of this famous Titan of this type, which featured in Lucid Tactics Yomi series, people were really hyped about this build, but it's not that good at all. What was important there, that Titan there was able to do hell power. But this is not as easy as it seems, usually. For example, Fomoria hasn't even been able to hunt for bullet slaves by this point, so yeah. I think there's some trade with Rus about provinces. We wrap up another small province, the Poor Forest. And again, we are not able to catch the raiders, but we are prepared if needed to fight them with pursuers. So turn 19, what we have here is we actually see something which may be the beginning of a Mid-Con Silver war. Not at all surprising, but remind me that I'm on the clock to do something about Mid-Con before the sacred count is beyond any possible approach. Speaking of that, let's just quickly discuss our bless. So my bless is a fairly typical imprisoned rainbow for sacred cavalry. Magic weapons, all the resistances, a little bit of defense skill, a little bit of undying, and hit points per warrior, because Wind Riders definitely benefit from hit points because they're well protected, but they don't have much hit points, so every hit point they gain really makes them better. And the unusual thing, slightly unusual, is taking warrior instead of just plus strength, which again was done for two things: map movement, being able to move over 3 enemy provinces and attack, and siege power, because the strength bonus from warrior is permanent, unlike the one from the pure strength bless, and because of the quadratic scaling of strength to siege power, and the fact that flyers double their siege power, this makes each Wind Rider be about 4 siege power strength, which is great because it's really critical to siege down forts as soon as possible in early age. Okay, in all ages, but in early age it's even more effective because of how weak forts are out many nations. And this is actually one of the most important things people tend to underestimate. Just having winning army compositions is not enough to win games consistently. What we need to do is to turn every military victory into captured forts as soon as possible, and this requires significant siege power, which can move and be available when needed at all times. This is critical for really be quick in snowballing and becoming the absolute power on the map. So on this turn we actually move on to Fomoria. However, there's nobody here. Dude war has moved to the side, not doing anything important, so yeah, we'll try to catch next turn. And here, I believe we have the battle. The big question here was he going to be alone or not? If I was sure that the duo of war would be alone, I could just send counter tugs against him, just geared windwards. But because of the risk that he was going to have some Fomoria units alongside him, I had to take a more combined move, risking the death of some Wind Riders. But what can we do? Just sometimes that's part of the game. And we do have a number of geared Wind Riders with armor piercing weapons and this whip, which I hope helps. I'm not 100% sure, but we also have, as you can see, shock plate here and other things. We have basically a number of geared guys. This one here, for example, is with Windcatcher, and again, copper plate, luck, a good shield which can hold Titan hits, maybe, depending on the Titan's weapon. What's this guy? This is the Vine Whip guy, Stinger guy. This is the Prophet, who will not be fighting in melee, but he can help with his smite. Now, Wind Riders themselves are not entirely hapless. They have a charge because they're so large, and they have extra strength. Their light lance charge is actually for 24 piercing, which is not a small amount of damage, but still against the Titan it's not that easy to actually manage to do that much damage. We see the shock plates doing work. Unfortunately for this ward, he might not survive the battle. I guess we'll see, but he has profuse bleeding now. Enormous strength, okay. Let's see his gear. Yeah, so an attempt for a repel build, but not something which concerns the Wind Riders much. Only the Stormbolt is long enough to actually block Wind Rider attacks, but more to the point, shield parry protects against repel, meaning these heavy shields, forged shields you saw on the walls, they're really well protected against any kind of repel because their defense values are so high, close to 30, and yeah, they also have good morale, so they don't care at all. This guy doesn't even have fear. He did manage to kill one Windward. And this is the end of Fomoria. In just one turn, this giant fort of 500 siege strength is down to severely damaged. So this is turn 20. Let's go to turn 21. Alright, let's just see if we manage to catch something interesting here. No. We're actually expanding into another lake. This will matter sometimes, but again, this is like something of an upside for defeating Fomoria. We have the upper hand for controlling this lake here. Okay, and this will wrap this series, this episode, and we will continue soon with another one, which will cover the capture of Fomoria and my next war, which of course will be Midcon, who are overrunning Sarumeshu. We're probably going to check out exactly what they're doing against Sarumeshu, picking up exactly from this turn 21. Thanks everyone for watching, and see ya.